This is the Investor Connect podcast program. I'm Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of this show in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, family offices, private equity, and many other investors for early stage and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Well, hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today I'm here with Raleigh Melancon, founder and CEO of StylizeNOW. Located in Austin, Texas, Raleigh's company owns and operates a platform, StylizeNOW. The platform provides an on-demand mobile hair and nail salon services that cater to customers' residences. For now, the platform is focused on the Central Texas market, but hopes to expand soon. StylizeNOW contracts with licensed professionals that agree to provide these services to customers that use the StylizeNOW mobile application. Similar to other on-demand service providers, the company does not employ these professionals, but contracts with individual professionals that provide these services and sends them to customers that use the platform. Customers simply go on the platform and select what service or services they desire, and the platform will immediately begin to set them up with a stylist and send them to the client's location. Raleigh, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Hall.
Great. So what was your background before founding StylizeNOW? What did you do before this?
Okay, so I was a student at the University of Texas. I was a CS student, and I graduated in 2019. And then I worked in the government for a year. And I'd been kind of toying around with an idea for a startup, but there was nothing I really believed in or that I thought that I could pull off. And then this pandemic happened, and I kept thinking, well, there's a lot of people that are unemployed because of the pandemic. Like originally I was thinking of like hospitality employees, waiters, things like that. They were of course unemployed because of the shutdown, but also salon care services. And then there was also the fact that people couldn't get their hair cut. Mostly women were complaining that they couldn't get their nails or their hair done. And I was trying to think, well, how can I get these people back to work or at least get them some kind of payment while this pandemic is going on? And then also bypass the fact that a lot of these public salons, like in malls and stuff, are closed. And that's what came to this idea. And I started writing it in the pandemic, but it took longer to write than I was expecting.
Okay. So that's great. That tells me how you got to work in this space. So we always have investors on that are looking to invest in new areas. What's your advice for people investing in this space? What do you tell them to do before they write that check?
Well, I would keep in mind that that on-demand services are very expensive to get going and get established. They require a lot of money, especially in the beginning, to grow and get their brand out. And also, I would recommend that you make sure that there's not a lot of competition in the field, so it's not already heavily saturated. So, for example, like Uber is pretty much covered. Uber, Lyft, those companies have pretty much taken over the transportation market. But also that there's not a whole lot of competition in the field. That's what I was meaning to say. Those two things is what I'd consider. Thing is, you mentioned this in the introductory, but also if you're investing in a company really early on, they need to have some model that can scale very easily. That's something that I see a lot. Like they own the supply of salon care services. Well, that means that every time you open up a new city, you're going to have to hire those people. You're going to take on all the costs associated with employing full-time employees. And it's just you can't scale as fast. And in this business, you do have to scale pretty fast. I've observed and reading about other cases.
Great. Well, as we come out of the COVID pandemic and we're in various stages of reopening, many industries are changing. People are working from home. Healthcare is going telehealth. How do you see the new landscape looking for stylists? Are we going back to the stylist parlor, or are they going to start coming to where people live, like the delivery people do now?
Well, I'm hoping for the later. I don't think that will happen, 100%. But I think that there's certainly. I've looked at a lot of studies done. Forgetting the name of who commissioned the study, but there was already before the pandemic an enormous amount of growth in this field, double-digit growth in some cases, and it was reaching newer and newer markets. And so, yeah, I saw a market for this before the pandemic, but I certainly do now. So, yeah, I think that a significant number of people will choose to just get these services done at home because, that would be way better if you could.
Absolutely. And what are the challenges in starting a business like this with stylists? What have you come across so far?
One of the challenges is like in most on-demand markets, there's really two markets, not just one. For example, you have the market where you're trying to do customer acquisition. And that market, that side of it, that's easy for people to see. But the other side of it, in fact, I had to program 2 different apps. The other side of it is you have to also market and recruit stylists. And that's another big part of it because we can't sell anything to customers if there's no stylist. So that's a big part of it. And that's a huge challenge. And it's very costly and expensive to not only recruit more stylists to sign up to the program, but also to get customer acquisition as well. That you have to advertise. A lot of the costs are more like in the beginning, but that's something I did not see. Mm-hmm. There were some other challenges but they're more programming side. So I don't want to go into them in too much detail for this podcast.
Great. So how does StylizeNOW fit into the landscape? How would you position yourself against other companies, more traditional or otherwise?
Well, at the national level, I'm trying to think of like a national provider of, I guess, like supercuts. That would be a competition. That's still a thing. I haven't been to one in years, but national chains that provide hair services, also just independently owned salons that are everywhere. They're competitors. The other thing is that there's some, in other cities, there's something called Glam Squad, I think is the name. It kind of does something similar, not exactly this. It does something closely similar. And then, but obviously, if one of these ideas takes off, there's going to be thousands of copycats. That's a challenge too. You have to grow fast and you have to get as big as you possibly can before somebody else catches up.
So what's the go-to-market plan for your deal there? What do you plan to do to kick it off?
Oh, we're already active. We've already launched. And the thing is right now is that we're trying to get a big enough base in the Austin and San Antonio, Central Texas market. And then we want to go statewide, which is going to be very expensive. We're going to need to raise a lot of money for that. And then we want to go national and hopefully one day global.
Okay. Have you thought about doing what Instacart did? They were doing delivery and then one day said, well, we'll just sell our technology to everybody else that wants to do delivery. And then they got out of having to, recruit drivers and delivery people and all that. They just go and sell it to everybody that wants to get into the business because they already have the technology set up. Sound like you have the technology set up. Have you thought about going to Supercuts and saying, hey, I'll give you another revenue stream here, especially during lockdowns. You can use my tools to go out and white label or in some way, shape, and form support them in that.
Well, that's the thing. There's a lot of services that do that and probably can do it much better than me. So no, I've not done that. Well, what do you mean when you say the technology side? Because there's lots of on-demand services and they can customize that and retool it. For example, Uber or for example, there's another app called Home, HOMEE. They do plumbers. That seems like something you could easily sell the technology part to people in my industry. You'd just be having a different you'd be having a different product or a different service that you're selling.
Right. Instead of competing with the current stylist boutiques, you go to all of them and say, hey, I've got an app that I can customize for you and have an onboarding process, and they get to sign up for use of that app, and then they get to apply it to all of their customers. And then they maintain ownership of their stylists and their customers, but now they're having new revenue stream where if the customer doesn't want to come in, the stylist can go out, and it all goes through their system. It's their revenue, so to speak. And now you have a B2B play. You are selling a technical solution to a company with recurring revenue and contracts and all the usual thing versus a B2C play where you're trying to recruit your own stylists and build your own network and then send them out directly, which can be a little bit harder to build, and more expensive. If you had 10 big accounts like Supercuts, your cost of going to market is much lower. You do have to support those guys with the back end technology, but it sounds like you already have that. And what you don't have are all the stylists and all the customers, which my strategy is figure out what I have, I'll sell that. What I don't have, I'll partner or I'll contract or do something that have the other person or the other group take care of that.
I have not. I might look into that and consider it. That when I started developing this, those salons were closed. I did think about some kind of partnership with salon schools, and that because I wouldn't ever reach a point where I'm competing with them because you still have to get certified as a cosmetologist or nail technician. So I thought about going to the schools and partnering with them, but I didn't think about going directly to the salons. They weren't even open when this idea started.
Right. And you have technology. Salons, they have network and they know accreditation and they know that, but they mostly likely don't have technology. They don't know how to put these apps together or whatever. You can put a really good solution together and go sell it to 5-10 groups and get a standard recurring revenue fee for however many people use it or how much money flows through it. There's a lot of different models out there you might want to look at. But I'd knock on their doors and say, hey, would you like to get a new revenue stream? You're not taking any customers. You're just enabling them to get more revenue from people that don't want to travel, because the home is now not only your place you live, it's your workout place, it's your office, it's your education room, and it could also be the place where you get your haircut. And so I think that's a trend that is going to continue, because people just don't want to spend time commuting or standing in line. They really want to set an appointment, have somebody show up, do it, and go away, and it's all on the credit card and all that. So it kind of fits into the mode we're going into. So I'd revisit that, because I find B2C, like you said, that is expensive. You have to raise a lot of money. You have to build network, and you have to be candid with yourself when you look around the team you built so far. How many of these guys in the room can do that? And I suspect if you look around the room, you're seeing a lot of people that can code, but you're not looking at a lot of people that know how to go build networks from the ground up using social media and all the other things. So it's something to think about. But you've been out raising funding and so forth, and let's hear your take. How's that been going so far?
Well, that's something else that we haven't discussed, is like until I started doing this and started applying for funding, I didn't know what a pitch deck was. I could assume that there was some kind of PDF or PowerPoint that they sent to people, but I didn't know what the name of it was. So that was interesting. And I had to consult with people just to see if I'm even answering all the questions they want in that. I joined something called Capital Factory here because in my senior year at UT, I got invited to do a 3-day workshop there. And so I joined them. They've been connecting me with certain financiers and venture capitalists. So that's how it's been going so far. I haven't heard word back from anyone yet, but that's the way it's been going so far.
That's great. And so as you go out and raise funding, what advice you have for other people? What have you learned that you would like to share?
Yeah. Make sure that you're able to, make sure you're able to write down your business model, why you chose to go with everything, why you chose to set it up the way you did. And also don't raise money too soon. Make sure you figured out the problems in your business model before going to raise money, because sometimes you're gonna burn up a lot of cash trying to figure it out. And I don't think that's a good thing. But also you're gonna have to explain yourself several times to people. Like I had trouble in the beginning explaining the business to people. I don't know why, but I just did. And I got very good at explaining it after having to meet with investors, potential investors, and then meeting with people that were giving me advice. Every time I fill out something online, I have to explain what the business is. So that's another thing it's really helped me.
And so how do you plan to spend the money? What's your use of funds there?
Well, so far we're pre-seed. So it's the money that I've invested into the firm that I saved up. But the hope is to spend it mostly on advertising rather than spending it on operations at this stage. I would love to put together a great team. I would. And to expand that side, but to me, it's more important to get the revenue stream flowing and then put together the great team. And I can always put together the great team later. And that also gives me better time to recruit and interview people. And it gives me a more leeway on that side while I'm still growing the business.
Great. Do you have any beta users so far, or how far have you gotten with it today?
We have 66 orders at this stage.
How many?
66.
Wow, 66 orders. And what exactly is an order in this case? What's the average value of it?
Oh, the average value. That's a good question. $75. Because not everyone just gets a haircut. Sometimes people get their hair colored or they get something called partial highlights. Mm-hmm. And actually, that's just the haircuts. I forgot to look before I came on here for the nail technician services.
Oh, wow.
Fewer.
So you could expand this into more of a salon approach instead of just a stylist. It could be salon and nails and those things as well.
That's another thing. Like, I don't want to get into the conversation because there's some apps that do what I'm about to say, but it would be natural for us to expand into like massages, areas like in lashes. Somebody mentioned that somebody was suggesting to me that we should do eyelashes. I've never had that done. Mm-hmm. So I didn't naturally think of that, but that's another area we could expand into. Getting facials, waxes, all kinds of things that, are $1 billion a year industries. And all we do is we just take a commission from each service sold, from each unit of service sold.
What's your take rate?
Right now it's 20%.
Okay. And have you done enough orders to have any sort of repeat revenue or consistent revenue? And can you calculate kind of a
We've only been launched and active for a month. And so therefore, no, people usually don't get more than one haircut in that time span.
I assume you have all the contact details so you can follow up next month to see if they want to do it again, I guess. Be interesting to see what kind of repeat rate you get out of it, and any feedback so far from those who have done it?
Yes. So far they've really liked the service. No one's told me if they didn't like it, so we'll see.
Great. Any problems with running it? Any glitches with scheduling or signups or anything like that?
Yes, right at first. It was because I'm recruiting people who haven't ever, maybe in a lot of cases, have not ever used an on-demand service before. They didn't realize that it was two different apps. So a lot of the stylists weren't going on the Pro app, which is the app that you go onto for that side, the supply side of the business. And they were just going onto the customer app and saying, well, I've never gotten one order. Well, no, because you weren't signing into the Pro app. So that was one issue that we had. And so I created instructions for that. And now every time that someone's approved, we send them a PDF that instructs them what they need to do, what app they need to download, how that works. And then some older people have called me wanting to know how it works, that they just went to the website based on some ads I ran. Mm-hmm. And they didn't understand that you just click on you download the app, and then that's how it works. Now we have a website. For the first 3 weeks, we did not have a website that went with the applications. And the reason for that is because when I was developing it, I was hoping to do Expo Web because I was publishing it through Expo Client. Long story. But anyway, that didn't turn out to work as well as I was hoping. So I had to develop the website independently. And so now there's a web portal that you can also, it's called StylizeNOW.com, that you can also go there and order as well.
Well, great. Well, in the last few minutes that we have here, what else should we cover that we haven't?
I mean, I could think of lots of things, but I don't know if they have anything to do with fundraising necessarily. What's big right now in the fundraising market?
Well, after COVID, we have a whole new set of careabouts. And so we're really starting a whole new cycle. And it's being driven partly because, the world has changed. People are moving to on-demand delivery services, as you're a part of. You see a lot of things moving into the world of autonomy, so to speak, with blockchain and systems you can put up that you don't have to go and run everything at heart runs by itself, smart contracts and the like. We see a renewed interest in IoT because there's the movement to digitize everything. Everything is going online, and you need IoT devices to connect the real world into the cyber world. And so you see that cybersecurity is also very hot right now. There's just a huge amount of hacking going on every which way. And so you're going to see a lot of startups going in that direction as well. So we've got a whole new startup cycle, and partly it's fueled by the fact that interest rates are now zero. The world it's free money, and you can't make money off bonds or debt instruments anymore. You can pretty much only make money in the public stock market or the private stock market. So investors are going in and putting money into early stage companies that are taking advantage of some of these new trends. So you're in the on-demand world, and I think you'll find that there's a lot that goes on there. I think you'll find it is expensive to build a B2C business, and you might think about doing some local B2B plays, go to local companies, sign up to do it for them, and provide the technology piece. My goal is look at what you're capable of doing and focus on that. And then push off to the other pieces to partners and affiliates and other groups that you don't have to go raise money for. That's the big challenge. Some people say, well, I want all the revenue, but then you have to provide all the service and you have to raise all the money for that. And that can be daunting. Start small and then grow it up from there. So that's one thing to look at.
Okay.
Cool. Well, how best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
Well, you can call number, which is also my number, 512-516-7560. You can also contact me at Raleigh Melancon. That's RALEIGHMELANCON at nowtechnologiesinc.com. Or you can just go on StylizeNOW.com or nowtechnologies.com and do contacts and say you want to speak to me in the messages.
Great. Well, I'll put that in the show notes. I want to thank you for joining us today and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
I hope so too, Hall. Thank you.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org.
Hall T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early-stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for the basis of investment decisions.